fires in populated urban zones can quickly transform into serious emergencies.
Ay, la desesperación de la gente que está perdiendo todo.
In cities across Israel, built-up areas are particularly vulnerable when such events unfold.
The world is shaking. The headlines are blinding. Missiles fly. Cities burn. And in the middle of it all, a voice emerges, not from Washington, not from Tel Aviv, not from Tehran, but from Ouagadougou. Ibrahim Traoré just broke his silence. And what he said about the Iran-Israel war has left the West speechless. But what's more shocking is what Donald Trump did just hours later. This is not a drill. This is not a rumor. This is real. Everything is about to change. Traoré's words shake the world. You cannot bomb your way into peace, Traoré began, standing firm at the African Continental Forum. You cannot drone justice into a nation that's bleeding. You cannot call yourselves civilized when children die before the news breaks. His voice was steady. His tone, controlled fury. The room was dead silent. Global delegates watched, some blinking in disbelief. He wasn't speaking to just Israel. He wasn't speaking to just Iran. He was staring straight through the cameras, addressing Washington, London, Paris, and beyond. Africa will not be a silent witness to hypocrisy anymore. You speak of ceasefire while you fuel war. You speak of democracy while you arm dictators. And then he said it. The words that lit up every intelligence briefing room across NATO. The age of Western monopoly on morality is over. If the world burns, don't act surprised when Africa starts to shape the terms of peace. Before we go deeper, if you want to hear more raw truths like this, if you're tired of the media feeding you the same narrative, then now is the time to subscribe and click the bell icon. This is the only place where you'll get the full and censored picture of what leaders like Ibrahim Traoré are truly saying and how it's shaking the world system from the inside out. Trump's ceasefire move shocks the Pentagon. Just hours after Traoré's speech went viral across African and Middle Eastern networks, something bizarre happened. Donald J. Trump, from his Mar-a-Lago compound, issued a public statement. If I were president today, I would end this madness in 24 hours. Iran.
Israel.
Enough blood has been spilled. It's time for leaders to act like leaders again. Then came the kicker. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we listen to Africa. The Pentagon scrambled. State Department phones rang nonstop. CNN refused to report it in full. Fox News downplayed it. But it was too late. Traoré's words had echoed across continents. And Trump, sensing the global shift, tried to ride the wave. But is it too late? The West is nervous, and for good reason. Make no mistake, Traoré didn't call for war. He called for accountability. He didn't side with Iran. He sided with the truth. And that's what terrifies the West the most. Because for decades, Africa's role has been silence, aid, and obedience. But now, it's voice, power, and defiance. We will not pick sides based on fear, Traoré declared. We will not support any regime that drops bombs in the name of God. Whether it's Jerusalem or Tehran, if you kill civilians, you are no different from the colonizers we buried. The audience gasped. Some rose to applaud. Others walked out. But everyone still heard him. Unconfirmed intel, secret meeting leaked. A confidential document, allegedly from a U.S. military attaché, has now surfaced. It claims that Traoré may have been invited to a closed-door peace summit between non-aligned states. Purpose? To counterbalance both Iran and Israel, and possibly create a new African peace mediation bloc. Think about that. An African leader, 36 years old, who once held a rifle in the bush, now possibly leading a third path between the Middle East's endless war. Unthinkable? Not anymore. The prediction that has the West sweating. Analysts are now issuing a stark warning. If Traoré's bloc rises, it could spell the end of U.S. leverage in the Middle East and across Africa. A post-American world could be closer than we think. Because it's not just about Iran versus Israel. It's about narrative control. And if a voice from Burkina Faso is suddenly louder than all of DC, London, and Brussels combined, then the global system as we know it is already crumbling. As Traoré's speech continued to shake diplomatic circles, Washington wasn't just watching anymore. They were reacting. Sources from within Langley have confirmed that the CIA quietly initiated a red-level assessment of Burkina Faso's leadership shift. A 36-year-old captain, now turned regional peacemaker, was never in their playbook. But now, he's being discussed behind closed doors, in rooms where regime change is usually the topic. He's unpredictable. He's gaining too much traction in the global south. And worst of all, he's not for sale. One source allegedly quoted a senior U.S. analyst saying, Traoré is more dangerous than any militant because he's giving the youth something more powerful than ideology, he's giving them belief. A shadowy meeting? Paris. Unknown room. Reports now suggest that a secret emergency meeting was held in Paris, attended by operatives from French intelligence, DGSE, British MI6 representatives, and senior U.S. intelligence advisors. Topic? The African neutral bloc, now being whispered across embassies as the most unpredictable force in 2025 geopolitics. A leaked cable reads, if Africa positions itself as a third force between Iran and Israel, NATO will lose not only moral leverage but strategic ground. Traoré must be contained either diplomatically or otherwise. That last line is chilling. Traoré speaks to African youth, and the world listens. 3 days after the Paris meeting, Ibrahim Traoré addressed the youth of Africa in an open message. They are afraid of your minds waking up, not your weapons. They fear that when you stop waiting for foreign help, their empires will collapse. We are not neutral because we are weak. We are neutral because we are the only ones not drunk on war. The message went viral. Over 40 million views in 24 hours across African and Middle Eastern platforms. But the Western press? Silent. CNN didn't cover it. BBC ignored it. Reuters buried it. But the people saw it anyway. China enters the scene. Traoré gets a message. An unexpected development. China's foreign minister delivered a private diplomatic cable directly to the Burkinabe delegation. Though the full contents remain classified, insiders claim it included the phrase, if Africa seeks stability, it will not find it by kneeling to NATO. Sources suggest that Beijing is preparing to support an African-led peace initiative, using Traoré as a symbolic architect of multipolar negotiations between Iran and Israel. If confirmed, this means the West is now facing something it never wanted. An alliance of Africa and Asia, seeking to override Washington's dominance in peace brokering. The U.S. reaction, Trump unfiltered, Biden unprepared. Meanwhile, Donald Trump escalated his statements. I warned them. I told them, if I was in office, this war would have ended with one phone call. Now look, a kid in Africa is doing more for peace than Biden's entire State Department. Maybe it's time the world stopped laughing at Africa and started listening. His words are shocking. But behind them is a growing realization. The U.S. is losing narrative coming summits. The message is clear. They don't know how to handle him. A military shift, African troops refuse to align. A military leak from Ghana, followed by reports from Chad and Niger, show an unusual pattern. Troops stationed under Western-trained leadership are beginning to question regional involvement in any future U.S.-led coalitions. We don't want to be used as pawns in wars we didn't start, said one anonymous officer. Traoré showed us we can lead without being used. This mindset is dangerous for Washington because it's no longer just about oil, uranium, or military bases. It's about loyalty, and the U.S. is losing it. Intelligence intercept, code-named Black Wave. A highly sensitive intercepted communication between French and American intelligence operatives references something called Operation Black Wave. While details are unclear, experts believe it may be a containment strategy targeting Pan-African leadership, a disinformation campaign to discredit Traoré internationally, or worse, a covert plan for destabilization disguised as restoring democratic norms. This would not be the first time. And if confirmed, it may trigger a massive backlash across the African Union. Traoré's last line that shook the room. During a private meeting with ECOWAS leaders, Traoré allegedly said, "If they push us into war to silence our voices, we will fight not with tanks, but with truth. And if we die, let it be with dignity, not as tools for another empire." Silence. Then thunderous applause. Some leaders wept. Others looked over their shoulders. But none could deny that history was shifting right in front of them. Subscribe. Stay alert. This story isn't just about Africa anymore. It's about the fate of global power. Speech balloon comment below. Do you believe Operation Black Wave is real? And what do you think will happen if Traoré keeps rising? Hashtag Traoré Part 2 Hashtag Geopolitics 2025 Hashtag Africa Rising Hashtag Iran-Israel War Hashtag Trump vs Traoré Hashtag CA Disclaimer. The content shared on this YouTube channel is entirely fictional and created for educational and entertainment purposes only. The stories about the life of Ibrahim Traoré are imaginative works of fiction and do not represent real events, news reports, or verified facts. These videos are not connected to any official source or news outlet, and viewers should not interpret them as factual representations. Thank you for watching and supporting creative storytelling.